Hello, I am Amelia Lalremdiki, Ehsaas Woman of Aizawl. I welcome you all to the Right Circle, organized by the Prabha Khaitan Foundation. Today's event is in association with hospitality partner and our venue partner Fogland and Emerald Hotel. This event falls under the gracious patron of the Sri Cement Limited. The Right Circle is an initiative by the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, and it serves as a vibrant platform within the Foundation's literary endeavors. This initiative was created to bring together authors and readers of English literature in a close, engaging, and informal setting like today. Each session is thoughtfully crafted around the life and works of the featured author in an interactive dialogue with the discerning audience. The Right Circle started its journey from Jaipur and has now been conducted, and the sessions has now been conducted across India and even overseas in Oxford, Birmingham, New York, and Oslo. This evening, we have the privilege of hosting a captivating conversation between esteemed author Koral Dasgupta and our conversationalist, Ms. Gracy Bawihtlung. I just welcome both of you. Before the evening proceeds further, I would like to say a few words about the organization. The Prabha Khaitan Foundation, PKF, is a non-profitable trust committed to humanitarian and socio-cultural causes. The late Dr. Prabha Khaitan established it as a charitable trust in the early 1980s. Based in Kolkata, it is committed to supporting women's empowerment, gender equality, literature, culture, and performing arts. Late Dr. Prabha Khaitan was an eminent Indian philanthropist, social worker, entrepreneur, and feminist who established the foundation and believed in unity in diversity. The foundation's multifaceted initiatives include the Right Circle, Kalam, Akar, Kitab, an Author's Afternoon, Ilk Mulakat, The Universe Writes, Chopal, Rahat, Karuna, Muskan, and boutique festivals like the Sheher Nama and Ramayana Kala Utsav. These fall under the diverse verticals of literature and language, culture and heritage, social welfare and women empowerment. The Right Circle, an initiative by the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, serves as a vibrant platform within the Foundation's literary endeavors. This initiative was created to bring together authors and readers of English literature, like today, in a close, engaging and informal setting. We are elated to share that the 3-time Grammy Award winner, Ricky Kedge, the man behind the anthem that we played today, and signature color tune of the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, has curated 12 amazing musical pieces to score across video invites of events and social media platforms, as well as for pan-India and overseas communications. To create awareness in the community, we uphold one pressing social issue every month. The music of the month for September is "The Magic of Today is the Science of Tomorrow," a musical piece that reminds us never to lose our childlike fascination and to learn and to never stop believing in miracles. Now, allow me to introduce to you all the author of the evening, Koral Dasgupta. Ms. Koral Dasgupta is known for her multifaceted personality. She has published 8 books, including the 5-book Sati series, a retelling of the stories of the Panchakanya. Other than India, Koral's books are shelved in the libraries of University of Harvard, Columbia University, University of Chicago, University of Wales, and many others. The books under the Sati series have received nominations for many prestigious awards. The most recent is the Ahalya being recommended for the 2023 prize honor list of the Sahitya Academy. Her 4th book, Summer Holidays, has been adopted for screen adaptation. www.tellmeyourstory.biz, founded by Koral, leverages literature to execute extensive learning programs on creative writing and critical thinking. She is recognized on the list of the Innovator 25 Asia Pacific 2019 prepared by the Holmes Report and has been listed under the Women of Wonder series in the Outlook Business. So that's all her accolades. I'm sure there are so many more that I wasn't able to say today, but one thing I would like to say is I went to meet her at the hotel today, and I was a little nervous to meet a person like her with so many achievements and accolades under her name. But I was met with warmth and hospitality, and I felt like I was being welcomed into my own city by her. So I think that speaks a lot about her personality. And today's conversationalist is my dear friend, Miss Gracy Bawihtlung. She's a member by profession. She is a member of the Secretary of Mizoram State Legal Service Authority. She is a political science major, a law graduate from Delhi University, and she did her Master in Laws in Australia. She joined the judiciary in 2008 and loves to read, but she said that she has not been able to follow that passion much to her professional duties. She is an advocate for climate change and a strong believer in educating the masses about the legal system. One fun fact about Ms. Grace is that she will also listen to any music that's made by Frank Ocean. She loves puppies. She loves her puppies dearly. And she is also my legally blonde, like she's my Elle Woods. In the way she fights for the rights of everyone, and also in the way she fights for the rights of animals. So without further ado, I request Ms. Bawihtlung to start the conversation.
Thank you so much, Amelia, for that introduction. That was not very boring. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this conversation that we're going to have with Koral Dasgupta. And again, I would like to welcome you formally to our city. We hope you have fun, and we hope you're not too scared tomorrow when you fly out. Hope the weather is fine and everything. So we're just going to get right to it, because I think we've spent a lot of time waiting around for everyone to arrive. But the first thing that, Koral, I want to get right into is, could you tell us something about the Sati series that you're on right now? Or the Panchakanyas and everything, yes, sure.
Firstly, thanks to Pravakatan Foundation, Amelia, Grace, and all of you for showing up this evening. It fills my heart, really. About Panchkanya, the 5 names are Ahalya, Kunti, Draupadi, Mandodari, and Tara. Ahalya, Mandodari, and Tara are from the Ramayana. Kunti and Draupadi are from the Mahabharata. And interestingly, when we were growing up, or even before that, for a very long period of time, we have again and again heard about women's purity, and that purity aspect was always related to the body. Many Hindu families have this belief that if you're menstruating, you should not enter a temple, you should not do the puja. And then if something happens to you, any kind of touch, bad touch, it is always the woman at fault. The purity is questioned. In marriage markets, immediately, the dowry level goes up. Lots of things have happened over centuries of time. And here, the term Panchkanya is coined by Puranas. It's not something that I have coined. And then these 5 have been called Panchkanya. And when they say Kanya, Kanya translates into virgins. Now, these 5 are being called virgins, and all of them had more than one partner. So it leads me to think that for such a long time, our religion, our culture, has been preached to us from that perspective about women's purity. And I come from Bengal. The word sati, which means pure, is a very political term. Women have been thrown into the fire of their husbands to restore their purity, so that after husbands die, she is still, committed to the husband and doesn't marry again or doesn't have any such relationship again. And now I find that ancient texts are talking about, now whenever it is the epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, they are treated as religious texts because of the involvement of gods and goddesses in the stories. Now we have been told like that, okay, religion is saying, in God's world if this is true, in God's world if women are doing this, in God's world if this is happening to women, in God's world if men are like this, then that is right, and you can question God. Yeah. So now I come into this strange spark in my mind that here Puranas are talking about Panchkanyas, about these women who had more than one partner. So that purity thing can't be about body. There has to be something beyond that. And if I put that to the present context, what it is simply trying to say is, there is so much of chaos, so much of noise around us, right? Someone might say that kindness doesn't work any longer. You have to be very shrewd, you have to be very selfish. It's up to you whether you were touched by it. That is your purity. If you believe in, there are certain goodness we all are born with and we grow up with, and at what point of time we give them up, we don't know. How capable are we to retain that purity of character is the aspect of Sati or Kanya. It's nothing to do with body.
So now, I think all of us have understood, I think, from what Koral has told us about what the Sati series is all about, and I think there was a little bit of nervousness in the context, actually, because none of us are familiar with either the Mahabharata or the Ramayana. Even as I was reading it, I felt it was a little challenging, but your narrative is so easy, and so I was able to internalize so many things. So my next question, Koral, is that as I was reading your book, and you know, we're all on social media, so and I saw this quote on Instagram that says, "Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter." So somehow that got me back to Tara, you know, the story about her. And like you said, all that we know about her is from the Ramayana. So now even I'm a Christian, like you're, I'm sure a Hindu by religion, but so even in the Bible we have a lot of women in the Bible, women with strong characters in the Bible. We have Queen Esther, for example, and then we have Mary Magdalene. These are really strong characters. So I was just wondering, you know, the Bible tells their stories, but it tells their stories from someone else's perspective. And if we were to rewrite their stories, or if they were given the opportunity to write their own stories, how different would it be, and what kind of impact it would have on us? That was what, I mean, this quote on Instagram made me think of Tara and all my own beliefs. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that how different is Tara's story in Tara than what is in Valmiki's Ramayana?
You know, any ancient text, ancient literature, irrespective of religion, any folk, any myth, end of the day tries to say certain truth about life and livelihood, and they make use of characters to be able to do that. They are not commercial fiction. They never were meant to be. They were ideally written by philosophers who are making use of certain characters. Could be animals, could be humans, whatever, and even God. So you would not find the basic learning that, or the truth that they are trying to say about living. And I am not even trying to divide it into human living or animal living or plant living. Any kind of living. The truth that they are saying applies to everybody. It is not about any kind of religious, no religious truth is different actually. They all lead to certain ideas of goodness, and at the same time telling you that the goodness that you define, you will never be able to define goodness in the context of everybody. Because whatever you are good you are trying to be, you are trying to look at it from a very myopic, earthly consciousness. So you might try to do good, but in the larger world, whether it is good or not, it is not in your hands.
Yes.
You know, it can only be well intended. You do not necessarily actually end up doing good. What you are doing for someone might be too bad for someone else. So this is the truth for everybody. And tell me one religion which doesn't say this. What was your question?
My question was, how different is how different is Tara's story from Valmiki's Ramayana?
Valmiki Ramayana makes a passing reference of Tara. So the story is about Rama from Ayodhya is exiled, and he is along with his brother Lakshman and wife Sita goes into the forest to live. In the forest, they meet Surpanakha, who wants to marry Ram or Lakshman, and they deny. And she attacks Sita and gets into the war with brothers, and in that war she gets her nose slashed. Now Surpanakha goes crying to her brother, who is Ravan. Ravan is very mighty and extremely talented. and he's huge. And she goes and complains to Ravan. Ravan comes to India. Ravan is in Sri Lanka. Ravan comes to India, abducts Sita to teach a lesson to the brothers. And Ravan goes to Lanka. Ravan there tells Sita to forget Ram and marry him because he is way more bigger than Ram. And Sita declines. Sita has no intention of marrying Ravan. And then there are many ways in which Rama offers peace, that you just return Sita. Peace will be restored. He doesn't listen, so the war happens and Rama dies. The base story. Now when Sita is abducted, Ram is not with Sita at that time. Ravan has taken her away. Ram goes in search of Sita. He has been told, in the process, Ravan had killed a bird called Jatayu who had come to save Sita, and Ravan had killed him. Jatayu said that Ravan lives down south. Now Ram is travelling from north to south to be able to get across Sita. In the process, he meets Sugriv, who is grieving because he has been thrown out of the forest Kishkinda, which he and his brother Bali had set up together. Bali is the king of Kishkinda. Bali and Sugriv are twin monkeys. Right? And Tara is the wife of Bali. Tara also happened to be a romantic interest of Sugriv, but when Bali married Tara, Sugriv kept quiet. Now Sugriv tells Ram that I want my rights back because Bali had thrown me out totally based on a misunderstanding. And he is unwilling to listen to me now. He is unwilling to believe that it was a misunderstanding. And so Ram says that fine, I'll take care of this. And Ram kills Bali. Sugriv gets back the throne. Sugriv helps Ram to reach Sita, do the fight, win the fight, balance restored. Now in this entire story, the story is about war. The main character is Sita. A lot of space for Ram. Lakshman, of course. The monkey Sena plays a very big role. Now, this much story, when I give you the framework, where do you find Tara here? She is not even there. She is just there, and the only reference that Valmiki Ramayana makes is that Tara was very feisty, and there was monsoon going on. I mean, Sugriv had made that pact with Ram that after Bali is killed and he is returned his kingdom, along with his wife, Ruma, he will help Ram and Lakshman to fight Ram. Yeah. Now monsoon sets in and the animal world cannot operate. So Lakshman comes very angry to charge Sugriv that you made a promise and you forgot about it. And before even Sugriv comes out, Tara stands in between Sugriv there and Lakshman here, and he says, what do you think? That he made a promise, great, but then we are not slaves. We will keep our promise, we know how to do it. Just have trust. So these are the references of Tara. Yeah. The rest of it is a recreation.
So yeah, that's what I really enjoyed. My kid, it's fine. That's what I really enjoyed about the book, because we don't really know anything about Tara. Even as I was doing my research, there was very little story about her. But as you created her character and as you give flesh to what her name represents, I really enjoyed the character that she represents and what she was for the entire Kishkinda. Apparently, Sita actually said that Kishkinda was it worked on because of Tara. So, but we'll get to that. But now that you've introduced the characters of Kishkinda, what I am also interested in is, as you write the story of Tara and as you conceive her in your head, how much of yourself do you see reflected in her?
You know, Tara is very notorious. She loves creating trouble. And mischievous trouble, not real troubles. Mischievous troubles. She'll do something to irritate people. And if the person gets irritated, she perceives happiness. I think that's all women are. We love irritating our fathers, our parents, our boyfriends, our husbands सबसे ज़्यादा. So we all women are there somewhere in Tara. We do come up with mischiefs. we do weird things, we say weird things to put everybody into discomfort. But when there is real crisis, we are the backbone. So that's that.
So, yeah, I would say then that basically describes your story as well, as a mom and as a writer and as a wife to your husband. So that you, like all of us here, I guess you're like irritating your better half or your son, but you are indeed the backbone of your family, just like Amelia is perhaps for her own family. I would just like to comment on that. And my next question, like moving on, is I want to venture in a little bit into the politics of space and place, and I spoke to you a little bit on this. So from the national border to the wire fence, from privatization of land to exclusion and expulsion of persecuted people, questions of space and place and of who can be where and what can they do is at the very heart of the conversations that we're having these days. And I guess all of us here are also very familiar with that particular idea. So what is fascinating for me as I was reading your book is that there were very interesting dialogues on this whole idea of space and place that was going on between the characters. And I like the way that you approach them. Like, for example, Bali said that when they were trying to uproot a plant that was not particularly edible, Bali said that these plants will stay where they are, it's their space. So that idea is very strong in him. And Sugriv was also quoted, quote unquote, as saying, there is no such thing called home, brother, you have to make one. And I guess from there, Sugriv, like you know, is Bali's twin brother. Bali is the king of Kishkinda, like Koral has told us, and Tara is the wife of Bali. And so while Bali was not paying attention much, Tara and Sugriv entered into a pact, or sort of like a conversation, and they decided to send out word that Kishkinda, the kingdom, would welcome immigrants. So everyone started coming. So by opening their doors, Kishkinda was able to experience a lot of new things. But the one thing that happened was also that it changed the entire course of Bali's life. So, and it also resulted in their, like you said, their participation in the Lankan War in terms of Tara. So, and eventually Kishkinda had to close its doors to immigrants, saying, no, you cannot come in anymore. So, can you, I mean, if you're comfortable with it, can you comment on this a little bit and also perhaps speak on whether this should be a cautionary tale?
Personally, I do not believe in the belonging of space when it comes to the earthly geography. I do not believe in, but this is my personal thought. I do not believe that, okay, so all these political borders that has been created, and I'm not just talking about villages and cities and, you know, states, I'm talking about countries even.
Yes.
There's a lot of conversation about who is entering the country. I understand the administrative need for doing that. What I don't understand is when people say that, okay, if right now if I say that I'm a Bengali, I'm culturally superior, you are a Mizo, you're not as much. I probably don't even know.
Yeah.
And I'm probably taking advantage of the fact that you are either soft-spoken, you don't want to enter that fight, or you also don't know. But that doesn't mean that your rights to this earth is any less.
Yes.
Or it doesn't mean that since I can talk better, I can articulate better, I claim more.
Yes.
You know? Just as I was saying that in this story, what you were referring, Bali and Sugriv are very, they're twins, they look exactly alike. And that again is a metaphor of the Ramayana.
Yeah.
That two people might seem similar, they are not similar. They might look similar because they belong to the same race, they belong to the same tribe, they belong to the, I mean, 5 Bengalis wearing that white sari with red border, there will be a lot of similarity in the way you perceive them. But they might be very, very different in character, you know, and that applies everywhere. So Sugriv, Bali was one person who believed in the autonomy of the jungle. He believed in everyone, every being, every plant, every animal having a right of its own, and he believed in animal wisdom. He believed that there is something to learn in the ancient practices of everybody, and that is enough. You do not have to copy anybody else. And Sugriv was just the opposite. He was waiting to be tamed by humans. He believed in that human rationality being superior to animal wisdom. And that was the conflict between the brothers. And though they were very loving towards each other, they would often fight, and Bali would win the debate because Bali was more articulate and Sugriv was not as smart. Now, I was just some time back talking about you might want to do everything right with the right intention, but it is not necessary that you will actually end up doing right. That is what happens here. You see, when the doors are open, people, many other tribes of many other herds of animals and birds come in. One way of looking at it, which is also there in the book, there's Bali, the way he talks before his death, and Bali when he talks after his death, which only Tara gets to listen. There are two different versions of Bali, because that is when Bali's worldview has expanded. So on one hand, one way of looking at it is when people are walking in, when more herds are walking in, a lot of things go out of control. Because it is easy to control 5, it is not easy to control 5,000. In 5,000, if 10 stray and do something wrong, it may or may not be under your control. Another way of looking at it is, yes, the entire mess happened because the outsiders had walked in. But the one who tried to save that mess was also an outsider. And that one had given the life. This is one narrative that we often miss out. That who is the one who tried to protect? They were also from there only. They also tried to fight, and for us. That is the politics that is very harmful, and we should be careful about.
Thank you so much. That was so brilliantly put. I would never be able to say such things by myself. So
I might be killed someday for saying this.
I don't think so. Anyway, so as I was reading the book, there's a lot of parallels. Sometimes I would forget that I was reading about monkeys, to be honest. Like, I was talking to Amelia and I was like, well, you know what, I'm reading about monkeys and bears. And she was like, oh. And for me, but as I read, your narrative was so easy and it was so smooth that often I thought, like, even now I cannot imagine Tara to be monkey. Like, in my head, she's a woman, so it was very difficult for me to translate that. So, but I also found like some striking differences that are quite different from human world and also the animal world. For example, like the healer, I like to call her the healer Ruma because I really enjoyed her character and the little bit you speak about her. And Ruma is Sugriv's wife, and she practices medicines. She does all these like concoctions. She goes around the forest and fetches all these like medicinal plants and all that, and she makes medicines for the animal kingdom. So Ruma, for example, she was described, she herself owned up to Tara. You spoke about the love triangle between Tara, Sugriv, Ruma, actually 4 of them. 4 of them. So Ruma was very upfront with her infatuation and her love for Bali. And even when Tara was supposed to marry Bali, it was Ruma who said this, and I really like this, I'm going to quote you. And she actually owned up to Ruma, saying that she loved Bali very much. And sorry, not before her marriage, but after Bali had passed away, they had a conversation, and this is what Ruma said. She said that obedience was the only expression I was left with to convey my devotion to Bali. I molded into a faithful wife, making my husband happy in every way, just as Bali would have wanted me to. Everything I have ever done was for Bali. So these are such strong words. But throughout the entire story, Ruma and Tara are always very good companions. So is this one of the representations of purity that the Panchakanyas are also all about? And what are the other instances that represents purity that calls for it? I mean, that we should be recognizing in the book as we read.
So, Firstly, I'll bring your attention to the expectation that society has ingrained that whatever your parents are, you have to be a byproduct of that. So I have used it and I have refuted it as well. When I wrote Mandodari, Mandodari is Ravan's wife in Ramayana. Mandodari is the daughter of a great architect, and I have shown her as someone who has learnt the art from the father, and she is a working woman doing architecture. In Tara, I have done just the opposite. Tara's father is a doctor, and Tara is the rebel. She doesn't want to do medicine. Her interest is completely something different, and she goes all around the forest trying to learn language, and every kind of language. Whoever is passing by saying something different, she wants to learn that. So she is that curious creature. When it comes to the women being very open to each other, you know, I find it very fascinating that we mess up a lot of things by trying to be nice. Most of the times. If we are very upfront and, you know, very honest, which doesn't mean rude, a lot of things are so easy. In the animal world, it's there in the book as well, that they do not necessarily get married. They might feel married, they might love, but they don't need this institution that, okay, we are married, this is the ring, there is the paper. You know, they don't need that. And when humans try to do that, in live-ins and all that, they're criticized as much as you can. But animal world is very simple that way. There are certain animal principles which are out of the world. And they will be always, they would love their friends forever, and they will never forgive an enemy. They are quick to, you know, trust. And if that trust breaks, they will never forgive, they will never forget. There are certain very basic ethics that they have, very basic principles. They do not attack unless they are threatened. We attack for joy. Today I came back from hunting. So, you know, what was the need of doing that? Our sense of joy is so stupid. And from that perspective, again, I say that a lot of things are so chaotic, so muddled. I'll give you a very present day example. You know, it happened with me. I was trying to get a fellowship in Harvard, and that didn't work out, long back. And I really, really wanted it. I worked very hard, I prepared my papers, got whoever I could to write the recommendations. It didn't work out. So when it doesn't work out, you feel rejected, and then you do feel that, okay, why God? But then you live with it, it's okay. Now, the very cosmic conspiracy and satire and humor, I don't know what kind of humor God has, didn't give it to me, gave it to someone I know. Now that person is putting up on Instagram every day that I'm here doing this, and I'm getting very angry with every post. I want to unfollow that person, but the person is a friend, I can't unfollow. So, you know, I met her in one of the events, and I told her that, you know, I jealous you, and to some extent I hate you also. She started laughing. Now what she does is, every time she does something really meaningful, she DMs me. And I send her, you know, angry emojis. It is just as simple. I didn't have to pretend that, okay, I'm happy for you. But I'm not. I might be happy for her, I'm not happy for myself, and it can be said with a lot of humor, with a lot of fun, without meaning anything bad, very directly, and you still remain friends. When you try to, you know, mold it into a, you know, make a khichdi out of the dal chawal, it becomes stale.
So yeah, that's so great about Tara and Ruma's relationship. Yeah, that is exactly how it is. When you read the book, you will see that their relationship, even though they both loved Bali like so strongly, and they were able to make it work. And I found that very difficult to see happening in humans. So it was inspiring, indeed. I hope we get to that stage one day. So so you seem to like Bali a lot. I'm going to ask you questions that might be a little tough because I'm not particularly a fan of Bali because, and as I read your book, I like Sugriv better. I'm more, he's my bias actually. That's what youngsters are saying these days. So anyway, the twins, Bali is like, he's really strong, hot-headed, and he's very assertive, and he's a strong one, you know, and he's the king of Kishkinda. Whereas Sugriv, the brother, he's more very mellow and very studious. He was always willing to learn. He was the one who helped Tara with her scripts. Like Tara was actually devising the script for the animals, like just like we have alphabets. So Sugriv was helping her do that. So in the story, like you were speaking about it in the beginning, the brothers got into this fight. Actually, after the immigrants came and Lali, what happened to her, and what was the name of the devil? Dunduvi. Then Dunduvi and Maivi happened. So these are like two evil spirits that had possessed one of the animals in Kishkinda, and that led to kind of like a lot of deaths in Kishkinda. And it was because, simply put, it was because of that Bali had banished Sugriv. And he was talking about how Ram killed Bali. But in Tara's narrative of it, it was not necessarily Ram killing Bali. And Sugriv, as he was explaining to Tara what had happened, he said that Ram had showed him the way. So it's basically him undergoing kind of like an epiphany, like a transformation, where it completely changes his life, and he transformed from this very meek person to a person who was more decisive and strong, and that actually led him to become the king of Kishkinda later. So, and Sugriv had planned to do the same for his brother, but unfortunately, the way that it said in the book is that Bali gave up. So Ram had shot an arrow at Bali, and that had actually lifted the veil. So Bali was able to see everything in a transformative manner. So I guess Sugriv said that it was Bali giving up, but my question is, was it giving up, or was it arrogance that made him give up, or was it an ultimate sacrifice for his brother? Which one was it? Like, maybe you could just build the context a little bit for the readers, and yeah, because my question is it arrogance that he chose to give up, or was it ultimate sacrifice?
Okay, so what happened was Bali and Sugriv, Bali had to fight two very difficult demons. One was Dunduvi and the other was Mayavi. Mayavi took Bali to the underworld, and the entire range of fight commenced there. Years had passed, Bali had not come out, and streams of blood had started coming out. And Sugriv thought that Bali had died. So he was heartbroken because Bali and Sugriv were thickest of friends, though they differed on a lot of things. So Sugriv was heartbroken. So what he did was he used certain rocks and all that to close the mouth of the underworld so that Mayavi can't come out of there. Bali emerged victorious. And when he tried to come out, he found that the door of the underworld was closed. He got it opened. He was very powerful, he just kicked it open. And when he returns to Kishkinda, after years of war, when he returns to Kishkinda, he finds that everything had changed. Sugriv had applied his ideology into the Kishkinda that they had built together, the royalty rules that they had set up in Kishkinda. Ruma and Tara both were living with Sugriv, and he is very angry. That is when, even he had a very injured body, after years of fight, he fought with Sugriv again and defeated him even in that state. Probably Sugriv getting defeated by Bali even in that state could be that Sugriv did not want to fight.
Yeah.
But whatever happened, Bali chased him out. Sugriv ran away. And Bali said, never again enter Kishkinda. Sugriv tried to come back again and again and explain to him that you are misunderstanding. My intention was something else. But Bali was not in a state to hear him. He refused to hear him. Finally, when Sugriv met Ram, he said this to Ram and he requested that do something about it. When Sugriv met Ram, a lot of transformation had happened. His weak character had become stronger. His confidence was returning, and he could find his voice. So he said the same thing to Ram, that do this to Bali. So that just like I could find my inner self, my inner confidence, just like I could find my truth, let Bali find his truth. He will understand then what he has done. And in the book, Rama says yes. In Valmiki Ramayana, it says that Rama went and shot from behind the bush and Bali was killed. That, I felt, was the most disturbing part of Ramayana. Because if Ram is God, if Ram is an avatar of Vishnu, who is God, then his powers are way beyond what humans perceive as power. God is more giving, more forgiving, more accommodating. Why would he have to do this? I mean, killing from behind the bush? He could have gone and said, no, that you are not doing the right thing with your brother, I am aligned with your brother, either you fight with me or you take him in. It was as simple. Why did he have to do that? That is the reason I have put that interpretation, which you are talking about. That Ram shoots the arrow and there's a flash, and then Bali starts falling. I don't feel that that would be arrogance, because when you are, when you are actually, you have built up on yourself with a lot of wrongdoings, and that is not necessarily something that your people say that you have done wrong. You know that you have done wrong. It's there inside. Your arrogance might stop you from admitting it. Your, what do I say? You might want to float a narrative, and you are going by that. You don't want to hear, you don't want to deviate. But then in your heart you know. And when that heart is exposed, when your conscience comes calling, it's very difficult to live with that. That is when you have shattered. And that is when you cease to exist. In real life, there are very few people who are knocked by the conscience. And that is when their transformation happens. Bali's death is not necessarily, so philosophy, I call these philosophy, I don't call these religious texts, I call them philosophical texts. Philosophy doesn't believe in birth or death. Philosophy believes in an endless cycle, which different, you are existing from different dimensions. So Bali's death doesn't mean Bali has ended. Bali's death only means that that portion of Bali, which had become very arrogant, very angry, very destructive, that goes away, and a good force takes over.
So yeah, that answers my arrogance question as well, because I thought when Bali decided to give up as he was shot by Ram, that him being able to see, him seeing what actually the veil being lifted, he was arrogant as in, I do not want to live anymore, or that he was sacrificing his life, the ultimate sacrifice I call it, because he was giving space for his brother Sugriv to take position. So yeah, there's a thought in that. And I'm going to get to the end soon, but there are actually three questions that I still want to ask you, and some of these questions I'm going to leave. But there is one particular thing that why I do not like Bali so much is because he was married to Tara, and this entire time that they were married, Tara felt like she didn't own him completely. She always felt that Bali was looking for something. And that something was Ahalya. So when she appeared in Kishkinda after Bali passed on. And this was actually what she said. She said Bali was searching for a mother, like when she realized that he was searching for a mother. Bali was searching for a mother, and all the while I kept feeling sad, angry, jealous, and whatnot. I wish I had Bali with me once again in this life to hold him as his only queen. So she said that she possessed him completely only after Ahalya came to her. Why was it that Bali did not mention to Tara that he was looking for Ahalya and not some other person that he owed his heart to, or
So there can be many answers to this. One is for the sake of the story.
Yeah.
I had to keep the suspense building. Second is there are people like that among all of us who loves to keep secret, and especially when these are monkeys, these are fun-loving creatures. When the husband knows, and the wife is very irritating, when the husband knows that the wife is always on the lookout of secrets, he wants to hide one secret. That is his revenge on the wife. And the wife is going on, looking for it.
But she was so sad the entire time because of this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to, see, the story is written. These are, you ask, I say. But it is totally open to interpretation, right?
So, we spoke a bit about the special interaction that happened between Bali and Tara after he passed on. And in the chapters in the book, you'll find that they're all italicized, and you can make out that these were the special conversations that were held between Tara and Bali. So they were very wide, the range, the theme that they spoke about was wide-ranging, and they were very honest with each other, things that they would not speak about before he passed on. And for me, it was very intoxicating because it invited me deeper into the psyche of Tara, Bali, and all the others characters in Kishkinda. I'm interested in how did you choose what those conversations would be about, the special conversations between Bali and Tara as you write them, and what your reasons for choosing those particular conversations?
There are certain questions and certain portions that were very much important in the concluding book. So, strangely, Sita is not a part of Panchkanya, but Sita has a very strong role, Ram's wife Sita, in Ramayana. So I have added half of Sita's life in Mandodari's story and the other half of Sita's life in Tara's story. Now there are certain questions, if you see the questions, the conversations that are happening between Bali and Tara after Bali's death, they are very difficult questions.
Yes.
They are very political questions. And those are the questions that those are not the kind of conversations that we make in our lifetime often. It's very difficult to, because you know that if that conversation is raised, relationships get spoiled. Our basic comfort is compromised. So there are certain conversations that cannot happen in a lifetime. But when that wall that separates beings from one time frame to the other, when that wall shatters, a lot of fakery also gets shattered, and then your approach to each other is way more unpretentious. So when Tara, for example, Tara tells Bali and Tara are debating after the death of Bali. They are debating about Ram's winning the war. So Ram wins the war, and when Sita is coming to Ram, people start questioning Sita that for a long time she has been in the enemy land. Is she pure? So a fire is lit and Sita has to walk through, and Ram doesn't object. So Tara raises the question that why aren't they saying anything? They have fought for it. And Bali gives an answer to that why not. Now, there's the festival of Dashera, which celebrates Ram's winning of the war with Ravan. Tara, being the woman, asks that only Ram winning the war is celebrated in Dashera. Dashera doesn't remember that Sita had to walk through fire. That is a question only a woman can answer. Yeah. So these kind of questions a person cannot answer in a lifetime. They have to move on to another realm to be able to put those in perspective.
So beautifully put, Yeah, I wish that human beings, we were more honest about each other. I think a lot of complications in this world would be solved if we were more honest. So I'm coming to my last question. So the Panchakanyas is about 5 incredible females, and I wanted to ask you, did you have fun telling their stories, writing about all of them? Not only Tara, but Drupadi, Kunti, Mandodari, and Ahalya. So, did you have fun writing about them, and what inspired your ruminations? And ultimately, who is your favorite from the 5?
It was exhaustive, writing these 5, but I would say that it was also very spiritually empowering, because I got a lot of answers. I find a lot of peace now. The most important, mind blocks that I had are a little offset. I understand, probably I understand God a lot more than I did before. And if you have read Tara, probably you would know that none of these stories, though they are spoken from the woman's perspective, none of these stories are women's stories only. I do not believe in that kind of feminism. Men's stories are women's stories, and women's stories are men's stories. That is how it operates. Because nobody is complete by themselves. It always needs, and mythology has constantly been telling, that it needs the collaboration of masculine energy and feminine energy in order to be creative, in order to be productive. Mythology also tells about Shiva Shakti. Shiva and Shakti. When Shiva and Shakti are together, there is joy. When Shiva is separated from Shakti, there is Tandav. Tandav is the dance of destruction. And again, you see every kind of separation is talking about some kind of destruction, some kind of war which leaves everybody unhappy in some way or the other. So these stories, while they talk a lot about women's life and women's thinking and women's culture, women's leadership, they also introduce gorgeous men. And I believe in gorgeous men. I do believe that they are there. Of course, not everybody can be absolutely fine in everything, but there are things that they are really good about. There are strengths that we just need to exchange. That, okay, this is my weakness, that is your strength, let us build upon the strengths and move ahead. I also believe that patriarchy has not messed it up only for women. They have messed up big time for men as well. When you say things like men don't cry, when you say things like mard ko dard nahi hota, you are actually cornering them and not allowing them to express. So if there is hard soil and it is not watered, anybody who walks on that soil will get their heels scratched. And that has happened. We have seen many cruel men across centuries. And if you go back to their lives, you will find that that cruelty has been built. You were asking about the stories. In Draupadi, I could see Bhishma. Bhishma was a young prince in his teens. He got to know that his father was in love with a woman. And he cannot marry her because the woman's father has demanded that you have a child already. He will claim the throne when he grows up. So my daughter will be neglected. I will not get you married. So this teen goes ahead and forsakes everything. He says that I will not take over the throne. Now the girl's father says that what if you get married and your children claim the throne? He says I will not marry. At that age, teenage, he didn't realize what he has given up. Only later, when his world had shrunk, did he realize that the basic right to love has been taken away from him. And that is when his journey of cruelty starts. This guy, his oath was celebrated. Devabrata was the name. He started getting called Bhishma, which means the great. The gods threw flowers on him, celebrating that he has given such a big sacrifice for his father's love. Now the same guy, after years, goes ahead and kidnaps 3 women and brings them to Hastinapur to be able to get them married to his ailing brother because the country needed it. Now if Ravan kidnapping Sita is a crime, then Bhishma kidnapping these three is also a crime. No? The only difference between Ravan and Bhishma is Ravan never admits the crime, Bhishma admits the crime. Because when he is faced with Draupadi and Draupadi raises pointed questions at him, which he cannot, the relationship is Bhishma is Draupadi's granduncle-in-law, very loving relationship. And Draupadi's questions are very abruptly, unpretentiously on the face. They get him to think, and when he goes back and sees what has happened to him, what he has gone through and what he has been made into, he had transformed into a cruel man, and he once again transforms into something else. In the war, by then, okay, out of the three girls, one girl called Amba say that I already love someone else, I don't want to marry. Bhishma lets her go. The girl goes to that guy says that I could not save you from being kidnapped, so I have no rights on you. Whoever has kidnapped you has all rights. She furiously comes back to Bhishma and says that, okay, marry. Bhishma says, I cannot, I am under oath. Amba says that I will come back to kill you. I will be the reason of your death. Amba goes away, commits suicide, comes back as a trance called Shikhandi. The philosophy of this story is about when we are on a mission, we change to the extent that we ourselves don't get to recognize ourselves. We change to that extent. Our usual self dies and someone else we become. Amba becomes Shikhandi. Now when she comes for a fight, Bhishma suddenly says that, okay, I will not fight with a woman. Now Shikhandi is standing, Arjun throws arrows, Bhishma dies. Why did Bhishma have to do that? In Ramayana, we have seen Ramayana which has come before Mahabharata. We have seen Surpanakha fighting with Lakshman and her nose getting slashed. Those days, we have Chitrangada in Mahabharata, who was a warrior woman. Kaikai was a warrior. Those days, men did not look down at women as inferior creatures. Why did Bhishma suddenly say that I don't want to fight? It was Bhishma's surrender. And that was the only, So, patriarchy has done that to men as well. As much as they had done whatever they could to women. And it was important for me, not that I planned to do it that way, but that is how the stories came to me. Because I truly believe in the kind of harmony, in the kind of unity that leads to something productive, something positive, something which is exponentially beautiful. I would say that the most difficult one was Draupadi, but favorite was Tara because I could put in a lot of humor.
Yeah. She's actually very funny. So I think that is how I will wrap up. And guys, a round of applause for her.
This applause belongs to you too for doing that.
So I think we'll take some questions. Yeah? We'll take some questions. Yes. I think you give the mic or mic. I think you can take this.
Yeah, there's a mic here.
Oh, okay.
It was such an insightful and wonderful story. From the conversation, ma'am, I heard that the animal kingdom is very simple. So, but at the same time, how significant, how important for an alpha male or female to take part in the story? And of all your books, I think the influence, how important was the influence of Indra?
Influence of?
Indra.
Indra.
Yes. And ma'am, not on this, the five sati, one of your book, Power of a Commandment. Ma'am, you're a really good analyst, and I really admire for that. And was this Power of a Commandment was like very common, especially in the South, because of the SRK, don't underestimate the power of a common man. So was this is your book ever sent to SRK, and what was his reaction? And was this book, that means the power of a common man, was it written before Chennai Express or Jakarta?
He's familiar with your work.
Yeah, quite a bit. So first thing you asked about alpha, right? You know, till now, Bali Sugriv Tara story has always been perceived with human consciousness. When you look at animal world, as you say, that there is an alpha and the herd follows the alpha. Whenever there is a conflict of the alpha with another one and the second alpha emerges, the group separates. It is up to the group, they decide who they will go with. When Bali and Sugriv became two different alpha, Sugriv had very less supporters. Bali had everybody. Now, this story has always been laughed upon by humans because they say that, okay, Bali was away, so Sugriv retains his own wife and Tara. Now Bali comes back, Tara and Sugriv's wife goes to Bali. Now Bali dies. Both of these two, what is happening? Now, if you look at it from human consciousness, obviously you will find it very funny. It doesn't happen in the human world. But in animal world, this is how it happens. The alpha, I choose the alpha. Right? So, is that what you wanted to ask?
Yes, and since it's a story of powerful women, so being an alpha, especially in the society, we male are considered as every time men do this, women can. So for a feminist to work, so you do need some alpha.
You know, that is the reason I don't like the word feminist. I really don't. Because whenever you say feminist or any kind of activism, it bars you from looking beyond it. So these activist words are, in fact in this book there is a sentence called, activists are afraid of change makers. You try to become a change maker, your horizon expands. You try to be an activist, you will try to keep the cause alive. Because you have spent years to be an activist, no? If the cause is dissolved, who are you? So, coming back to it, no, I do not believe. I'll tell you what mythology tells us. It says, and you might find it very debatable, mythology doesn't say that a man cannot do a woman's job or a woman cannot do man's job. Yes, most of the men there are the warriors, fighters, they are the front runners. And most of the women are the ones who are running the home. But there are Chitrangada, Kaikeyi and these kind of Ulupi, these kind of characters who were warriors. Now it was the politics of the human world to think that the homemakers are useless guys. The homemakers are actually managing money, managing people, managing resource. So production management, financial management, human resource management. You know? So homemakers were not doing for this job. But what the mythology tried to put in is that women do go through different stages of life, cycles of life, and at every cycle, every 15 to 20 years, their body changes. Along with the body, the mind changes because the mind and the hormones are reacting to it. And the woman has to deal with it. So women are best fitted for advisory roles instead of the front running role. Right? So when there is an alpha, so if you are doing a war, right? If you are in between, not a war, forget a war. If you are in a fight with someone, right? For example, you are angry. At that time, you will not be able to see reason because you are there on the field. You can only see a little, right? I am sitting at a space from where I can see a broader diameter, a broader circle. I will be able to advise you whether to do the war or if you want to do the war, how to do it better, because I can see the placement. You can't, right? So that is what mythology is telling us, that women are better fitted for advisory roles over the front-running roles. Rather, men do the front-running roles because they are not constrained with certain things that happen to their body at different phases of their lives. Right? Does that answer your question? Okay. Your second question was about, thank you.
My second question was about the influence of Indra on all your books.
Yeah.
Because he is considered as very mischief, and you know, like they portray as the bad guy all the time. But I think that he was having a big influence in all the characters, and especially in all the narratives. So how big was it, and like, was it your intention?
It was intentional. Yeah. It was intentional. Indra, in the pre-Rigvedic era, he was the only god. That was not the time when Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar had come into the forefront. And the hymns of pre-Rigveda were beautiful. They were praising Indra. They were talking about his fights to bring water on earth, and he was the king of the devas. That identity people have forgotten. Later, I don't know why, there's a lot of narrative on Indra being, a philanderer, doing a lot of weird things. Indra's influence, yes, I'm very fascinated with Indra. I'm actually fascinated with all the underdogs. So that is the reason why I'm fascinated with Bali as well. So I was very fascinated because those hymns of pre-Rigvedic times were beautiful, and I felt that the god who is the king of the Devlok must have something in him. Also, you see, Kunti chose Indra to give birth to Arjun in Mahabharata. Arjun is the biggest hero of Mahabharata. There must be something about him. I mean, a girl will not choose a rapist to give birth to a child. There must be something about him, and I wanted to explore that. And when I went ahead, I felt that, okay, Indra, the word comes from Indriya. Indriya means impulse, and that is not a definition in front. Whoever you are defines Indra. It is not the other way around. Indra is not defining. So, I am a man. I see a beautiful woman passing by on Manasiti Mandi. That is my impulse, Indra. I am a man. I see a beautiful woman passing by, and immediately a poetry comes to mind. I write it down. That is also Indra. So it depends upon who I am. I perceive Indra like that. Indra himself is not saying who he is. That is Indra's secret. In all the Sati series books, as you have rightly pointed out, that Indra plays a very interesting and important role, intentional of course, because I wanted to explore, and I have, to a great satisfaction, managed to explore him from different dimensions. I mean, in the first book, Ahalya, Indra is enigma. She doesn't get to see Indra, but she is in love with Indra. In Kunti is actually, I say that she is the fiercest, though we say Draupadi is, Kunti is. Kunti was in love with Indra, but she was not exactly in love with the personality of Indra. She was in love with the throne. So just look at the ambition. A girl, a princess from earth, wants to have a child with the king of heaven. That is how ambitious she is. It is metaphoric towards how ambitious a mother can be, because there is nobody who is more ambitious than the mother. No corporate person, no player, nobody can be more ambitious than the mother. The mother is the most ambitious one. And that is what is reflected there. In Draupadi, Indra is Arjun's mother, the husband's, Arjun's father, the husband's father. So is it in Tara, Bali's father. And in Mandodari, Indra is the villain, because Ravan wants Devlok. So I have tried to explore Indra from various dimensions and had a lot of fun doing that. Your third, Power of a Common Man, yes, Shahrukh tweeted about it. And actually, I did some mischief there. It's what happened was, as you rightly pointed out, that Jab Tak Hai Jaan, I had written the book till Jab Tak Hai Jaan and given it to Red Chillies for permissions, verifications, whatever they want to say. Now these are big people. They sat with the book Chennai Express released. So I guess the book was still Jab Tak Hai Jaan. There's another film that was released. God knows they are not answering that, when they will be able to even answer. Let everybody go there. I punched a case study on Chennai Express and said release the book. So of course that kind of arrogance is not liked by anybody, and I am talking about Shah Rukh Khan. It was kind of him to be able to be tweeting about the book, though I have done that. But I had to get the book released. I cannot write case study after case study. But the fun thing that happened was, Shah Rukh was angry, but his fan clubs didn't know. So even today, every time one of his films release, one of the other fan club is trying the book, saying that I read Power of a Common Man. There are a lot of retweets. My book is selling. I am like, yeah. So that's the story.
Yeah, and I don't want to take up much of the time asking, because I don't want to be the guy who keep on asking questions, but your inspiration on the Kala Bhavan.
Kala
Yeah.
Okay.
So, see, I believe that from myself from a science background, like energy can transform, and you cannot destroy energy. It transforms from one to another. So what your first book inspiration or your transformation from Kala Bhavan, and like how was the process going on, and like what was like the thoughts of from writing into sculpting was, it's like, though they are both different art form, but come on, like sculpting and writing is like completely opposite.
I wasn't a student of Kala Bhavan. I was a student of economics in Vishwabharati.
Yes, ma'am.
I bunked my classes and sat in Kala Bhavan because I loved them doing that sculpting work. But I was medically unfit. I have a migraine issue, so I was not allowed to do sculpting. It requires a lot of, it takes away a lot. You have to be very concentrating on that, and concentration is required for writing as well. But your eyes are affected, and it is my eyes which I have to say, because the entire thing is from that nerve. So I was doing economics, and I would bunk classes, and I had befriended all the professors in Kala Bhavan. So I would enter their classes and sit there, and they would not say anything. Sometimes they would say that, okay, bring a glass of water. So I went and brought a glass of water. And then some of the students sometimes, taras khake, they will say that, okay, you can do a little bit of this scratching. So they will give me a thin pin kind of a thing, and I'm sitting and doing their work. And they would reward me for that. So there was this canteen, they would, seniors there, they would give me tea or whatever was it. So this canteen was also epic by itself. It had a huge menu: samosa, bread and butter, anda bread, bread pakoda, a huge list. But only bread samosa was available. Not bread samosa, anda bread. So if you pick anything, they'll say that I'm not available. Only bread anda is available. So sometimes these bhaiyas would go and they would pick up their breakfast. They would bring breakfast for me also. So they rewarded me for being their intern.
Hi Koral, welcome to Mizoram. It's been a delightful evening to listen to your stories and your conversation with Grace. When you first, on the first question only, it reminded me of this book that I was reading. I actually finished reading it while you and Amelia were walking around Falkland. So it's Poetics by Aristotle, where he talks about like the forms of poetries and stuff. So if I may, let me just read a line from it. He's talking about tragedies and the rules of class. He's like, even a woman may be good and also a slave, though the woman may be said to be an inferior being and the slave quite worthless. And then he goes on to say that like, a man may be praised for his ambitions, but I'm just paraphrasing that, but the same trait in a woman is seen as inappropriate. So this is in like what Aristotle is saying as the class of tragedies and stuff. So when you talked about the Puranas, it really reminded me of what he had just written. So, knowing your background in academic literature and stuff, how do you still see influences of what Aristotle has written and the impact on modern texts, or novels, or any kind of literature? Because even though, like, from day to day, we may not think, like, for me personally, I've been fortunate enough to live in a world where me and my sisters, we have the same rights as any man. Like, we don't have any brothers, so we have the right to claim anything as a son could. So, but we are still influenced by stories, and we love stories, we listen to stories, and even though it may not always be in a book, movies and things. So there's always the subtext of the women, the same trait being perceived differently between genders. So can you tell me how you see that from an academic point of view?
You know, I will not probably be able to give you an academic point of view because I haven't read much of Aristotle. I know only the basics. But I think I have learned a lot from life itself. Because I had the presence of very strong men in my life, different kinds of men. I have grown up hearing, don't wear jeans because so-and-so grandfather will not like. You know, so we do have that. My mother has so many times told me that women have to give more. You know, they have to sacrifice more. And I have grown up on that. But I think a lot has shaped my thinking and shaped me as a person that I am with the influence of my husband. And I'll tell you why. Every woman is having a battle within herself, which is usually to fight that patriarchy which still exists. And every woman is fighting different levels of patriarchy. Someone might be at the grassroots, someone might be at the city level, but something or the other is there, and patriarchy is trying to push you down, and you are fighting from that level. You could be a multimillionaire, or you could be below the poverty line. The man in your life plays a very strong role in where you start the battle from. Because if the man is not involving you into those really petty things, you know, if the man is telling you that the rest of the people will have food first and you are the woman, you will have it later. If the man is telling you that your rights are less, you as a woman deserve less, then your battle is starting at a much lower level. And when the man is doing things that he doesn't know is hurtful, and hence your battle is there, that is when the structure of the battle is very different. So I am staying with a guy who, there are times when we have had massive fights, and because he didn't understand, he has grown up in a particular way. You know, I remember they made salad at home. My in-laws had come for his father and mother, and they had made salad. I didn't have salad. So my husband said that, give me some more salad, and his father took up the bowl, poured it on his plate. So I was newly married then. I immediately objected that, who said that my mother-in-law will not have? First of all, my mother-in-law was angry. That who told you? What's your problem? Why are you talking for me? But I was sticking on to it. That who said? Why did you assume? When you are struck with something like this, your immediate reaction is, "Aisa hi to hota hai." So that reaction came first. Next reaction was, then he realized what I said. There are more cucumbers and things, more can be made. So my question was, will you make? She will make, no? How many times have you realized that she is probably not doing it only for herself? It is finished, she has left it. You don't even know, because you never checked. So who said that she will do it? Will you do it for her? Then I will show her. Now he is cornered. Now the third arrow comes. That such are mother's love. You don't know. Yeah, mother's love I saw, son's love I didn't see. Now why does the man know? The beauty of a relationship is that he was very angry. But I realized later that he was angry with himself. So he came back to talk about it. And he again and again, every time we fight, and he knows that my rebel is, it comes from a space where I am cornered because of my gender in a lot of things that he doesn't even know about. So he comes to talk about it and understand it. And we have a conversation. That influenced me a lot to understand what the man faces as well. Because he is also conditioned, na? Usko pata hi nahi hai ki wo kar kya raha hai. So now, you know, whenever there is, even for general, not even special, general lunch, he comes and asks, have you had lunch? Because if I'm working, I'm like, get out everybody. So he will come to ask, did you have lunch? He never did it to his mother. His mother is no more now. By the time he realized, the lady left. So these have helped me to create a world, because I understood that the more I get demanding as a woman, the more human my husband becomes. That is true.
So, unless there's some... Oh, one more? Oh, good. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Koral. Thank you so much for the conversation. I feel like my mind has been stretched in so many ways. My intelligence level has not quite caught up to that. But I'm really grateful, and I want to thank Gracie as well for talking about the stories and putting it into context for us to understand your work. So, in many respects, I find you very brave, because you've taken such revered manuscripts that people assume as their religious text, right? Ramayana, Mahabharata, and you have reinterpreted them, modernized them. So I don't know if you've received any backlash in that sense, but maybe you've wonderfully packed it all up, so it's been received very well. So I'm just curious how you were able to reimagine those complexities of one character that you talked about, how in the real story, the Mahabharata, whichever one, they've only been talked about very briefly. And you've come up with a 5-series novel talking about these characters, and you've really, so it really shows your depth of understanding for these texts. So, so the question is, how were you able to draw those and still respect their original character as they were? And I ask this because if you take, for example, Grimm's Tales, right? They were so gory, but somehow they've been translated into the fairy tales that we know of today. And it's relevant for us, particularly as Mizos, because we have these Mizo tales as well, folk tales. And they're really quite disturbing, some of them. So I've been trying to explore on how we can reinterpret these texts. And you did that so wonderfully for Mahabharata. Like, I learned so many things, and I'm really excited to read your books, because I imagine there will be layers and layers of things to uncover, lessons and philosophies and all of those things. So I kind of want to emulate what you have done. So I wanted to ask your advice as well on that.
You know, the best thing is to have a clear idea of who is what, I mean, kind of the attributes of each, and then think of it from a very neutral perspective, not as someone you love or not as someone you hate. That opens up a lot of mind blocks and pores. I have done a lot of reading between the lines. I have not changed the original story. You know, so even if you have read the comics of Ramayana and Mahabharata, you would be able to connect with my story. You wouldn't feel shocked. But you will understand, you will probably have answers to certain things. That raises questions when you read Ramayana and Mahabharata. And you will feel that, okay, she has dealt with that question. So whatever is your question with your Mizo myth, there lies your khazana. Delve on that. You know, in Mahabharata, Kunti, it is said that Kunti had a gift. She had a boon. She had received a boon from a sage. she could call upon any god and have a child with that god. Now Kunti, being very curious, she tried to test it. And she ended up calling upon Surya Bhagavan, which is the sun god. And now she is not married, but she has to have this child. And she is not ready for a child. She doesn't want a child, but she has to give him. Now this was the story, and then the child is born. This was the story. My simple question that comes to mind is, okay, the girl made a mistake, now she didn't want it. What stopped the sun god from saying that the girl doesn't want, I will not go ahead? Right? He could have said, no? That means that that particular boon was actually a one-way contract. We are talking about women's consent, men's consent. You know, that is what this story is saying, men's consent not required, you want both. So, then delve on those questions that you have. That every moment which makes you uncomfortable, there lies something. And you will be able to curve out a meaningful story out of it, interpret it much better, with the characters surrounding that discomfort, I'm sure.
So now we've come to the end of it. How exciting it is to end a conversation like that, just realizing that there are minds at work trying to reinterpret and reimagine our own folk tales. I'm really looking forward to those works coming out in future. Angeti and I think Amelia, I don't know what she's doing right now, but Amelia is doing her PhD right now, which is really exciting. I'm very happy about that. Yeah. So yes, thank you again, Koral, for the conversation and listening to us and telling us about yourself and introducing us to Tara so wonderfully. Thank you.
What a wonderful session and conversation. Thank you, Koral Dasgupta, for the riveting conversation. And on behalf of the foundation and team, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to you and the conversationalist, Ms. Gracy Bawihtlung, for beautifully navigating the conversation this evening. I'm sure our minds were all expanded, as Larini said, and we all learned so much today. Today, what I realized was that how little I know in literature. So I think that's a start. If we start and we accept that I still have so much to learn in this world, I think that even if we just go home with that, I think that's a very, very good lesson today for all of us. So today's Right Circle event is, as I've said, is in collaboration with Prabha Khaitan Foundation in association with the hospitality and venue partner Fogland Park and Emerald Hotel, and also with the Ehsaas Woman of Aizawl. I am the Ehsaas Woman of Aizawl, and my sister Ashley, who could not be here because of some family emergency, is not here. So we both are the Ehsaas Woman of Aizawl. I would just like to say a few things on the foundation and how it works, because a lot of you here are first timers. Our events are on invite-only basis, and we host up to around 20 to 25 people, and we post it on the group, and then the first 20 to 25 people who RSVP are allowed for the event. And on all our events, we have the books by the author, and all of you can pick up a book after this session and get it signed by the author, and it's absolutely free. And also, our foundation is spread out all across India and also overseas, so there are women representatives for each state. It's usually 2 for each state, even for Aizawl. And now she's on her Northeast tour, so every author that comes usually does a tour of the Northeast, and we're the last of her trip, right? Tomorrow she's going to Delhi for a festival, and I wish her the best of luck for that as well. So at every event, we felicitate the author with something from a different state. This is so that we contribute to the vibrancy and the richness, and to foster unity and appreciation of the rich cultural heritage across our diverse states. Today, I am pleased to felicitate the author and the conversationalist with the ethnic dupatta of Lucknow Chikanchari. Lucknow is a city of rich traditions and cultures. Chikanchari needlework embroidery is a regal fusion of fashion, and it is the signature handloom of the city of Nawabs. It is a traditional and royal textile decoration style that has become a global trend for fashion lovers. Its sophisticated and intricate designs on cool pastel shades of textile fabrics such as muslin, cotton, chiffon, net, and organza are the hallmarks of chikan embroidery done with colored and silk threads. I now invite Lalremdiki to felicitate the author and the conversationalist. Thank you, Lalremdiki. So, lastly, I would just like, please be seated. I would like to tell a small story on Mizo folklore. I would like to share one story. It's the story of Tongmui and Shangtuana. They were forbidden lovers, and they were from different villages. And Shangtuana was eventually murdered, and Tongmui eventually took her own life because of heartbreak. And I'm saying this today because if you've attended our event before, the past events we served a dessert called Tongmui by Kukijar. Today our dessert is called Shangtuana, so they're counterparts, and I hope you all tried it. It's a sticky rice with sweet sauce, mangoes, and fresh cream. And at every Prabha Khaitan event we have to serve something that is very that will represent the taste of the state. So today we've chosen sticky rice and aptly named it Shangtuana. So thank you, Cookie Jar, for that. Thank you everyone who came today, and I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. I hope to see you all for the next event, and please pick up a copy and get it signed by the author. Thank you all. Have a good night.